What's up, people? Russell Exploitation here. Going to do some of my DVD collection over the next couple of posts that I put onto YouTube. I'm going to do my spaghetti western collection today. Big Italian film fan. If you've seen my Eurocrime collection, you'll know that I love Italian films. I'm not as big on spaghetti westerns as I am on some of the other Italian films in the great genres that they did, like the Eurocrime and horrors and so on. But I do like them, but they're just lower priority for me. But so I'm more picky about what I get, basically. But I've got some good ones here. I think are some of the best ones anyway. So of course we'll start off with the brilliant Man with No Name trilogy. Fistful of dollars for a few dollars more in Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Classic films, all three. This is the Blu-ray set, UK MGM set. The first two films have really nice picture quality, but the third film, Good, Bad and the Ugly, they've basically fucked up big time. They've smothered it all in DNR and it's a bit of a mess basically. So it's definitely worth it for the first two. Good, the Bad and the Ugly still looks okay, but hopefully they might rectify that in the future. Next up, of course, Leone followed that up with Once Upon a Time in the West. Again, this is the UK Paramount Blu-ray. Really nice picture quality on this again. Packed full of features. Well worth getting. Classic. Another Lee Van Cleef spaghetti western. Death Rides a Horse. This one is a classic. Most of the Van Cleef spaghetti westerns are all really good. This is almost as good as the ones he did with Leone. Absolutely fantastic film this is. You can pick this up pretty cheap in the UK. It's like £2 or £3. It's not very dear. You can get it on the US, I think, on the Wild East label, but the UK MGM is a lot cheaper than that. And picture quality is really good. No special features, but an absolute classic of the genre, well worth getting. Another great Lee Van Cleef one, Sabata. Not as good as the previous films with Van Cleef that I've mentioned, but still pretty good. There was actually two sequels to this, Return of Sabata and Adios Sabata, neither of which are that great. This is by far the best one of the three. The last film in the series, Adios Sabata, actually had Yul Brynner replace Lee Van Cleef in the lead role. He only did the first two. But this is pretty good. I'd say not as good as the previous ones, but still pretty decent. Again, this is the UK MGM edition, widescreen, nice picture transfer, so get that. Next up we have Blood Money, Lee Van Cleef and Lole. This is an odd kind of mixture of martial arts and spaghetti western. Basically the Shaw brothers invested in the Italian film industry in the early 70s and basically tried to infuse their kind of style on some of the films they were making. Did some co-productions together. There's another couple, there's one called Shanghai Joe as well that they did that's very similar to this. So it's kind of about 30% martial arts film, 70% spaghetti western. So it's an odd mixture of the two, really. So if you're a fan of both genres, then you'll probably love this. It's directed by Antonio Margheriti, great Italian director. Directed films like Cannibal Apocalypse and so on. Lovely transfer on this. This is probably the best transfer. There's been a few editions that have come out of this throughout the world, and I think this is the best transfer. So well worth getting. Next up we have some Wild East DVDs. All the Wild East DVDs are limited to 1,000 copies, and once they're sold out they're gone forever. They very rarely repress any of their films, so get them while they're going. First off we have one of their early releases, another Lee Van Cleef classic, Day of Anger. Great film, one of the best spaghetti westerns ever. You'll probably find this one in many of a top 10 spaghetti western lists of all time. This is a really great one. Unfortunately it's been out of print now for some time. I think it went out of print a few years ago and it's very expensive now. If you try and get this on eBay, it's hideously expensive, so good luck with that, but if you can find it for a good price then I well recommend picking that up. Next up we have Arizona Cult and Arizona Cult Returns, or Arizona Cult Hired Gun as it's sometimes called. Double bill. Giuliano Gemma as Arizona Colt, at least in the first one. He's replaced with Anthony Stephan in the sequel. Pretty good one. The first film is decent, is really enjoyable. The second film is pretty horrible though, it's pretty bad. The second film is directed by Sergio Martino, funnily enough. It was his first film. Of course, he went on to direct things, films like The Violent Professionals and Mountain of the Cannibal God and some of the great giallos like Torso and so on and that. But I think you can still pick this one up, so that's another one, good one to get. Next up, another classic, Kill Them All and Come Back Alone, Chuck Connors. Great film, directed by Enzo G. Castellari. Of course, he went on to direct some great films like Street Law and other spaghetti westerns like Keoma, which I'm going to come to in a minute. This was one of his first films, I think. Very action-packed, great score by, can't remember who did it now, Francesco Damasio, I think it was. So well worth getting that. That's another classic. Another double bill of The Forgotten Pistolero and The Unholy Four. Forgotten Pistolero stars, well, Leonard Mann stars in both of these actually, but he's the main star of The Forgotten Pistolero. Two very good spaghetti westerns, especially the first one. Decent, very very good score as well. The Forgotten Pistolero's got a classic score that sometimes, if you know your spaghetti western scores, you've probably heard this one. Great film and a great score. Next up we have Sartana double bill. Sartana's Here, Trade Your Pistol for a Coffin, and Django against Sartana. Sartana's Here, Trade Your Pistol for a Coffin is the last film in the official Sartana series. Django against Sartana is one of these spin-offs. Basically, they did many of these Django films that had nothing to do with the main series, and two different actors completely to the ones that have played Django and Sartana before. Both actually very enjoyable. The first one is much better, obviously, because it's a much bigger production. Django against Sartana is more low budget, but both quite enjoyable ones. Next up we have Lucio Fulci's The Brute and the Beast. Yes, Lucio Fulci. This was one of his first films he directed. Franco Nero, classic. I don't think he made a bad film. George Hilton. Although, if you've seen a lot of Fulci's films, you'll probably look at this and think, you'll expect probably something quite different, and you do get something quite different, obviously. But there is still little bits of his style in here. Particularly, there's like a beating scene at the end, which is kind of a precursor to the one that's used in Don't Torture a Duckling and that. But it does have little stylistic elements that he'd later employ a lot better. But another really good one. Next up, we have the Blue Underground release of Keoma, Franco Nero, again directed by Enzo G. Castellari. Again, this is one that's very highly rated. A lot of people love this one. Very good. Not quite so good as some of the others, I don't think, in the in the mainstream of spaghetti western films, but still very enjoyable. Next up we have some Sergio Corbucci ones, The Great Silence. Again, this is one that people will basically put in their top 10 to the end of time, really. It's such a great one. Very different because the setting for it is kind of a snowy mountain kind of area, basically, and it's very different to stylistically to a lot of the other spaghetti westerns. Close stars Klaus Kinski. He plays the bad guy in it. Again, great Ennio Morricone score. Not much to say about that, so it's really good. Of course, we have Corbucci's classic Django, the first film where it all started. Franco Nero. This is the UK Argent release. You can get this on many editions. I think it's come out on Blu-ray now, though the transfer isn't very good apparently. So I'm going to stick with this DVD for the time being, at least until someone brings out a better edition. A couple of nice features on here, interview with Nero and so on. Great film. Next up we have the Blue Underground release of Django Kill. Now it's called Django Kill, but it has nothing to do with Django. It was called originally If You Live Shoot, and basically, when the film was about to be released, the distributors tried to cash in on the Django craze and call it Django Kill, but it has nothing to do with Django at all. I mean, even some of the spin-offs, actually, the unofficial Django films, the character is called Django. Here, Thomas Millian's character isn't even called Django anyway, so it has nothing to do with Django whatsoever. But this is a really odd one. This was cut for many years. I believe Alex Cox, the director of Repo Man, was a big fan of this, and for years tried to hunt down an uncut copy of it. To his dismay, he went all around the world to try and find an uncut copy of it and couldn't find one anywhere. But it's now come out uncut, all the stuff restored. It's quite a violent one. I can see why it was cut back in the day. Very, very violent. Very good film though, well worth getting. Next up we have a couple of these unofficial Django spin-offs, A Man Called Django and Django and Sultana Showdown in the West. Nice double feature here. I think this is from Timeless Media. I think they're an offshoot of Shout Factory, I could be wrong, but nice little double bill. Both quite good films, quite low budget spaghetti westerns, but quite enjoyable. Nice transfers, quite surprised about that. Well worth picking it up. You can pick it up very cheap. It's very, very cheap. Just probably pick it up for £3 or £4, or under sort of $8 or something if you live in the States. Very, very cheap. Sergio Corbucci's Compañeros, Franco Nero again, Thomas Millian, Jack Palance, another great one. And last but not least, we have Menager, or A Man Called Blade, as it's sometimes called. Maurizio Merli. I love Maurizio Merli. He made some great Eurocrime. If you've seen my Eurocrime video, you'll know he made some really, really good Eurocrime films, basically. And this was his one and only spaghetti western, one of his last films. This one also, I think, is directed by Sergio Martino. And it's a pretty good one, actually, as well. Very dark, very grimy, cold setting, but quite violent. So that's the US Blue Underground release. Pick that up fairly cheaply. So that's it. That's my spaghetti western collection. As I say, I don't have that many, but there's some good titles out there. What I have is basically quite a good introduction in the genre. So if you want to pick up some good films, then I can recommend all of those quite well. So anyway, I shall leave you to it. I shall post another update soon, and take care and goodbye for now.